We've all been there. You have a massive project due next week, but you put it off, telling yourself that you actually work better when your back is against the wall. But relying on that final rush doesn't actually improve your work. Instead, it hijacks your behavior, clouds your thinking, and degrades your results. To understand exactly how this happens, we can map this process out in 4 specific stages. We start by looking at that sudden burst of energy that hits right before the clock runs out. It feels like a moment of intense clarity, but it usually masks the fact that we've been avoiding the task for days. Decades of behavioral research show that working under a tight timeline reliably causes a few specific things to happen. Your stress spikes, your error rate climbs, and you frequently end up having to redo portions of the task entirely. That racing heart and rush of adrenaline might make you feel highly productive in the moment, but if we measure the output, you are actually making far more mistakes than you would at a normal pace. The trade-off is clear. You are buying a finished project with the currency of high stress and a much higher chance of making a costly error. If the final sprint is so harmful, why do we continue to let it dictate our schedules? The answer lies in how visible a deadline is. A looming date on a calendar is incredibly loud. It presses on you and demands an immediate reaction. This brings us to the second stage on our map. We have to look at the difference between what is urgent and what is important. Important tasks contribute quietly to your long-term goals, while urgent tasks simply make a lot of noise. Over time, our brains adapt to this noisy environment. We train ourselves to only react to the alarms, leaving those quiet, deeply valuable goals completely ignored. Instead of proactively choosing what brings the most value, we end up letting the loudest problems decide our priorities for us. This loss of choice leads right into the third stage of our map. When you let external pressure dictate all your actions, your behavior shifts. You stop looking ahead to prevent fires, and instead, you wait to act until a situation becomes an emergency. Over time, this becomes the standard way a team or an individual functions. Everything stays quiet until the very last second, when every project suddenly turns into a fire that needs to be put out. Your daily life becomes a series of reactions. You find yourself constantly putting out fires instead of choosing where to invest your energy. By waiting for the clock to force your hand, your daily routine morphs into a never-ending cycle of crisis management. Operating in that constant state of panic takes a heavy toll. By the time you finally drag yourself across the finish line of a major deadline, you are physically and mentally depleted. With the immediate threat gone, your brain immediately looks for a way to recover and cope with that severe exhaustion. This is the fourth and final stage, the distraction default. You slip straight into endlessly scrolling through social feeds or binge-watching videos, using digital distraction as a false reward for surviving the stress. Reclaiming your time starts with identifying your own core priorities. Having a firm sense of what is truly valuable makes it possible to look at a screaming, unimportant deadline and say no with a genuine smile. While the burnout from rushing pushes you straight into the distraction trap, anchoring yourself to what is genuinely important gives you the strength to break the cycle. We've seen how the myth of pressure leads to artificial urgency, which creates a crisis culture, and ultimately dumps us into the distraction default. Letting a ticking clock drive your day turns every minor task into a high-stakes emergency. Real, meaningful progress only happens when you stop reacting to alarms and start acting on importance. Refusing to let the deadline dictate your actions is how you step off the treadmill and take back control of your time.